My husband 28 meters is obsessed with thinking I'm currently cheating on him. I 28F am not. Story 1. This has been a challenging year for both my husband and I. As a result of the wishes of my husband, I'm currently taking care of our infant child, who is now 3 months old, because he wanted me to stay home and, as he recently admitted, because he doesn't trust me to work with men for 40 hours a week. I turned down a great job offer and quit my former job because of this offer. I also quit my former job because of this offer. Being a stay-at-home mother is something I take pleasure in because I adore my child, and it is an honor to be able to fulfill this role. Of course, this comes at the cost of something else. Our income has been cut in half. Even though you have a new baby, you should continue working. The state of our finances appears to be stressing out even my husband. This causes me a lot of anxiety because our child was in the neonatal intensive care unit NICU for close to a month. I spent a lot of time away from home paying her hospital visits. Since that time, my husband has been unable to get over the suspicion that I'm cheating on him. He reviews the contents of my phone on a weekly basis as evidence that I was where I claimed to be. He demands that I show him my bank statements. He discusses anything out of the ordinary in relation to my dishonesty, and the following are some examples of this. During the time that he was gone, I cleaned the kitchen, but I forgot to put away the hot sauce from the meal the night before. Since I'm not a fan of hot sauce and I just cleaned, he assumed that the reason the sauce was still lying around was because someone had come over for lunch and used it. I was bemoaning the fact that I had a stain on my pants because I had no idea how it got there in the first place. He concluded that it was due to lube and attacked me while I was having a tryst with someone else. Even though things have been trying and challenging for a while now, this is both ridiculous and hurtful. I get the impression that I'm being watched closely. In all candor, I have the impression that he ought to be the one to apologize and make amends for what he did to me. Because he no longer places any trust in me, I'm unable to persuade him of anything. Since I've given birth, I'm sure a lot has changed in me, even though I'm aware that my libido has decreased since before my pregnancy. I have not concealed this information from him and have made every effort to satisfy his requirements. Before I completely lose it, is there anyone who can offer some advice on how to get my husband to move past this? This is driving me away, and to tell you the truth, I'm not sure how much longer I can put up with it. TL. Doctor, my husband is convinced that I'm having an affair, but I can't prove to him that I'm not. He has no trust in me as a person. Story 2. I betrayed my husband by cheating on him, and in doing so, I destroyed his life and the lives of his family. What is going on in this area is beyond my ability to comprehend. It seems as though the world around me is disintegrating. I'm aware that my calm demeanor may give the impression that I'm sociopathic. However, I believe that I'm in too much shock to be emotional. Before we were married, my husband was a troubled teenager who suffered from depression. I was told by him that between the ages of 15 and 18, he engaged in daily acts of self-harm and attempted suicide. He claimed that he was eventually forced to leave his home because his father suspected that he was acting it out and that he simply needed exercise or needed to go outside. At the age of 22, when we first met, it was love at first sight. He was tall and handsome, incredibly charming, and he made me feel absolutely incredible. Because he was not only extremely intelligent, but also very driven. I found myself becoming obsessed with him. As I type this out, my stomach is turning. At the age of 24, I was successful in persuading him to improve his relationship with his father. 2 years later, he attended our wedding, and he was a father figure to both my husband and me. The rest of the post is beyond my comprehension at this point. I've been able to keep my composure up until this point, but suddenly I can't stop shaking. I lied about it. My husband put in extra hours at the office so that we could go on a family vacation. I was attending a night out with the girls. I guess with my alcohol I'm not much of a drinker, and the fact that he was so handsome, masculine, and sure of himself, I just forgot about my husband. I went to his house, and we completed the task there. We had sex. It was incredible. Far superior to anything else that my husband has ever done. I fell in love. I always knew that my husband was the love of my life. But this other guy fulfilled me in a way that he could never do. Just the act of typing this has made me feel absolutely horrible, sick, and disgusted with myself. The following morning, my husband noticed our texts on the table next to my bed. He looked through my phone and discovered that we had made plans to get together again. To tell you the truth, I hadn't planned on seeing him again, but I couldn't help but get excited at the prospect of doing so. My husband killed himself 3 days later. A ducking extension cord was lying around in the garage. At some point, the cord broke, but by that time, he was long gone. His broken neck lay on the chilly pavement. A pull-up bar and an extension cord are the two things that stole him away from me. Things are going to get a whole lot worse. Not that I had cheated on him, but that his depression as a teenager was the cause. I explained that to his father. He left a note in which he described in great detail how cheating was his greatest fear, how he found that his demons were coming back to him, and how he didn't want to live his life feeling depressed any longer. At the very end, he simply wrote "I love you," and that was the end of it. I told his father that it all stemmed from depression in his teenage years. That evening, his father took his own life. This doesn't seem legit. This sounds like a made-up story that 8th graders would tell. I feel fucking ill. I have a sense of void. Nothing of value was left to him by his father. He must have assumed that it was his lack of support that caused the problem. I'm suicidal. I have the strong desire to exit this world. I've lived my entire ducking life and this is how I get punished for making the biggest mistake I've ever made. I have a terrible fear of death, but I believe it is the only option for me. I have arranged for the person with whom I had sexual relations earlier in the evening to visit me soon, so that they can look after me. You shouldn't waste your time trying to help me in the comments, because he's going to make sure I don't kill myself by accident. I'm not sure how to put this, but I have the strong impression that the hatred that is about to be directed toward me is not something I deserve. I'm aware that I have made a mistake, but the fact that my husband, who was like a father to me, has just passed away is entirely my fault. Please give me a break on this one. I just want someone to be aware that it was my decision, and maybe someday I'll be able to forgive myself. Story 3. My wife is still interested in me despite the fact that she cheated. My wife is 29 years old, and I'm 28 years old. We started dating when we were in our early 20s, and we knew right away that we wanted to spend the rest of our lives together. We are the proud parents of a son who is 8 years old. My wife and I both work only 5 days a week, and I get home from work pretty early on most of those days. I recently purchased a home for my family, and in addition to that, I run my own company. I was responsible for our son and our wife, and I believed that everything was going smoothly. Recently, my wife has been behaving strangely, and I've started to get suspicious of the way that she is acting. I told her that I was going to Mexico with some friends and that I wouldn't be back for a week at one point, and she believed me. I entrusted her with the care of my son. It turned out that I wasn't going anywhere after all. I purposefully returned home at an odd hour, and when I did, I discovered her sharing a bed with some jerk from the street. When she saw me walk in, she immediately began to sob. My son was nowhere to be found, and it turns out that she had left him with a mutual acquaintance of ours. I drove off in my pickup truck and checked into a motel for a few nights, during which time my wife kept texting and calling me frequently. I chose to disregard it and focus on attending to my responsibilities instead. Since I knew my son would be at school, I went to say hello to him and then hung out with him for a while during his lunch break. When he asked me why I wasn't going back home, I explained that I had work to take care of and that it was possible that I would be back in the near future. Since that day, I haven't gone to see him for lunch, and although my wife has been calling me and telling me she is so sorry and asking me to please return, I have ignored her calls. I did not want to sleep in the house, so I drove up to the house eventually and slept in my truck for a while before going inside. She kept trying to convince me to sleep there, but I refused. Now I'm ready for a divorce, but I'm terrified that I will no longer have access to my son, my home, or my businesses if I do so. She claims that she doesn't want a divorce and that she wants to fix this. But I don't think there is any way to fix this anymore. For me, it's all done. She says that she really doesn't want a divorce and that she wants to fix this. What is going to become of my life now that we have decided to end our marriage? I'm aware that men almost never win in court, and as a result, I anticipate that my financial situation will be precarious for the next few years. After that, I will be an elderly person, and no one will want me. So, what exactly is the point at this point? I have a horrible headache. I can hardly function, and I can physically feel myself deteriorating as a result of this situation. I used to be in shape, but these days I look like a bag of bones. Damn it. Because of the tragic car accident that took the lives of both of my parents last year, my brother is currently handling the day-to-day operations of my company. Because my sister is currently traveling outside of the country, I feel as though there is nothing more that can be done for me. Because of the things that I saw, I find that I'm unable to eat, sleep, drink water, or do anything else. I have made every effort not to abuse alcohol or drugs, but the longer I go without it, the worse the pain gets. Because I do not want my son to grow up in an unhealthy environment, I must temporarily refrain from spending time with him. In all candor, I have the impression that there is no way out of this shitstorm. She begs me to please come back with her and tells me that she loves and misses me, but I don't think that I'm good enough to go back with her anyway.